You ever stand in your own driveway, coffee in hand, just watching as a woman in high heels and a polyester pantsuit grins while three guys fire up chainsaws, chopping your entire winter's worth of firewood to pieces? Yeah, that was me last November. My daughters were at the window, faces pale as drywall, watching our heat for the winter go up in smoke. Literally, right there in front of us, because the HOA president, Priscilla, decided she didn't like the look of my woodpile. Permits? Had 'em. Fire marshal approval? In my back pocket. Township clearance? You better believe it. Didn't matter. People like you need to learn your place, she said. Dropped a $2,400 cleanup fine in my mailbox, sprinklers still going full blast across her perfect green lawn. 62 neighbors peeking through their blinds. Not one of them helped. I gotta ask you, what would you do if somebody torched your winter stockpile with your kids watching just to prove a point? Think about that for a second. And if you've ever had to deal with an HOA tyrant, I'm betting you've got a story too. Me? I'm Jake Hartwell. And about 6 months before that circus, I inherited my grandfather's house, plus a secret that would flip the entire script on the woman trying to destroy us. See, I'm a mechanic. Third generation, born and raised in Millbrook Valley, Colorado. My wife, Sarah, she runs the county library. You don't mess with her. 20 years wrangling rowdy patrons will sharpen your senses for bullies. My twin daughters, Emma and Grace, they'd never seen their dad lose a fight. So when all this started, you can guess how confused they were. When Grandpa Pete passed, he left us his old place, original 1950s ranch house, smack in the middle of what's now Riverside Estate subdivision. Developers had sliced up the ranch back in the 90s, but somehow his house stayed. A middle finger to progress, if you ask me. We moved in, thinking it was perfect until we met our new neighbor. Correction, until Priscilla, the HOA president, appeared in our driveway 3 days after the moving truck left. Real estate agent by day, HOA overlord by night. She ran the subdivision like her own personal kingdom. Laminated rulebook under her arm, a smile that says, "I'm about to ruin your whole week." First words out her mouth, "Mr. Hartwell, we need to discuss your commercial vehicle situation." She walked circles around my battered pickup, sniffing like it was leaking radioactive waste. Property values, Mr. Hartwell, depend on maintaining certain standards. She actually whipped out a measuring tape. Emma and Grace were watching from upstairs, and Sarah was gripping the kitchen counter like she might snap it in half. That's when I knew this wasn't about rules. It was about power. Took me 2 weeks to see the whole system. Stan Mueller got hit with a $200 fine for growing tomatoes. Agricultural activities prohibited. Lisa Park's kids lost their swing set. Playground equipment needs committee approval. Mrs. Kowalski, old widow next door, had to rip down her bird feeders, attracts nuisance wildlife. Meanwhile, Tom Wesley's identical tomato patch? No fine. Judge Hayes's grandkids had a literal play fort in their yard. Never an issue. Henderson's put up a shed without a permit? Just a polite reminder. Pattern was pretty clear. Working folks crushed. Wealthy retirees warned, maybe, then ignored. Sarah summed it up one night. She's targeting us. Grace asked, why doesn't someone stop her? Sarah just sighed. Because she controls the board. Everyone's too scared, or too comfortable, to fight back. So there we were, sorting through boxes in Grandpa's musty old basement. You ever smell 40 years of dust and secrets? Sarah organized everything, librarian instincts, while Emma and Grace complain about spiders. Then Sarah holds up this fat manila folder. Jake, what's this? The label read, Water Rights, Millbrook Creek, 1947. Inside, legal documents, so old they look like they'd fall apart if you breathed too hard. But one phrase kept popping up, perpetual easement and primary beneficial use of Millbrook Creek waters. I called Bob Morrison, family friend, retired lawyer, owes me more than a few favors for keeping his old Buick running. He reads the file, goes quiet, and then whispers, Jake, your grandfather didn't just sell land, he kept the water rights. Here's Colorado law in a nutshell. Whoever uses water first owns that right forever. Even if developers build over it, those rights stay with whoever had them first. Bob said, every toilet, faucet, and sprinkler in Priscilla's subdivision is running on water your grandfather owned. And now you own it. I sat there, listening to Priscilla's sprinklers droning away, watering her perfect lawn for 4 hours a day. 3 days later, she declared war on my woodpile. Now, splitting and stacking firewood for winter, that's just something Grandpa Pete always did, and he taught me well. For cords of seasoned oak, exactly where he used to keep him for 40 years, tarped up, all the right permits. County Fire Department inspected it. $200 fee, passed with flying colors. Emma and Grace helped me stack, laughing and bickering the whole time. You ever mix the smell of pine sap with cold mountain air? It's pure peace. Cue Priscilla, clipboard in hand. Mr. Hartwell, this is unacceptable. She circled the woodpile like a vulture on roadkill. Quoted the rulebook, unsightly storage, community aesthetics. I tried reasoning, ma'am, this wood's legal. Permitted. Been here for decades. She just smiled. You have 72 hours to remove this eyesore or face escalating penalties. October 1st. Certified letter so thick it could choke a goat. $50 daily fines, doubling every week. All over legal firewood. Sarah tried to reassure me, but her voice wavered. I remembered something Bob told me. HOAs love the legal gray. They lean hard, hoping you'll just fold and pay. But legally, they can't discriminate, and they can't just make up new rules on the fly. I took my folder of permits and walked straight to Bob's kitchen table. He looked through everything, then said, Jake, you're in the right. She's betting you'll give up because it's easier. So I didn't give up. I requested a hearing. Priscilla set it for Tuesday, 2 p.m., of course, right during work hours. The hearing was a joke. Community room smelled like old coffee and defeat. I showed up with all my paperwork, but the board, Priscilla and her hand-picked couple, didn't even look at it. We voted unanimously to uphold the violation, she said. But I haven't even presented my case. The decision is final. 5 minutes later, I was back in my truck, realizing I just sat through a kangaroo court. That night, I called every other neighbor who'd been fined. Stan? They threatened to put a lien on my house if I didn't rip out my tomatoes. Lisa Park? $300 for a swing set. Meanwhile, Judge Hayes' grandkids get a literal theme park. It was always the same story. Working folks hammered. The right kind of people left alone. I spent my next Saturday walking the neighborhood, camera in hand, snapping pictures. Gardens, no violations. Sheds, no warnings. But every house that belonged to a family like mine had a bright yellow notice taped to the door. When I brought the photos to Priscilla, she didn't even blink. Some residents understand community standards better than others, she said, voice cold as snow melt. Perhaps you should consider whether this neighborhood is right for your family. Not a suggestion, a threat. November 1st, $1, $400 in fines and talk of liens. Emma and Grace saw their parents stressed, angry, afraid. Dad, why is she doing this to us? I didn't have a good answer, just because she thinks we don't belong here. That night, I sat in the basement, staring at the water rights folder, listening to Priscilla's sprinklers run at 11 p.m., watering dead grass in November. A month later, the chainsaws came. Priscilla's nephew set up his phone to live stream. Turns out, humiliating your neighbor makes good content. Sarah's car screeched into the drive as flames leapt from our woodpile. Diesel exhaust, chainsaw whine, the smell of burning oak. Priscilla just stood there, smiling, handed me a bill for $2,400 in violation remediation. My girls were crying. My wife was furious. I was broken, cold, powerless. But Emma, my quiet problem solver, said, what about Grandpa's water rights? That question saved us. December 3rd, I called Bob. He answered, excited, said, Jake, you need to get over here now. I told him about the firewood. He got quiet, then swore. 20 minutes later, I was staring at proof. My grandfather had set up a company, Millbrook Creek Water Services, that the HOA had been paying monthly for water access. $3,400 every month, straight to Grandpa's estate for 2 years. Bob said, "You haven't just got water rights. You're the water company. You can turn it off. You can raise the rates. Every drop in Riverside Estates is yours." Let that sink in. The woman who burned my winter heat was paying me, unknowingly, every month for the right to run her sprinklers. I started quietly recruiting. Stan, Lisa, Mrs. Kowalski. Within a week, we had 6 families meeting in my auto shop, paperwork spread across the oil-stained workbench. I explained everything. Faces that looked defeated turned hopeful, even a little dangerous. We installed water meters, documented everything. Discovered Priscilla was using more water than 3 families put together. Meanwhile, Sarah dug through HOA finances, found $23,000 in fake invoices, landscaping that never happened, equipment that never existed. Priscilla had been stealing from her own community for years. When I tried to monitor the creek, Priscilla's nephew showed up with 2 muscle-bound guys, tried to scare me off. Problem was he filmed the whole thing on his phone, caught himself threatening me. I told him, "You're on camera, boys." They backed off. Bob drafted a formal notice to the HOA. 30 days to acknowledge my authority, stop the discrimination, or I'd modify service terms. Priscilla panicked, went door to door spreading rumors I'd shut off water for Christmas. But small towns talk. Within days, neighbors were comparing notes, and her lies collapsed. I hand-delivered packets, legal docs, usage stats, proof of everything. People started knocking on my door, apologizing. Judge Hayes, the retired judge, even called. "Mr. Hartwell, your position is sound." By Christmas, Priscilla had lost the narrative. Her next move? Bribery. Sent Tom Wesley with a check for $75,000 and a note telling me to leave town. I gave it back. Then, she called the local news, tried to paint me as an extortionist. But I was ready. Show them county documents, proof of legal rights. The story flipped in minutes. She escalated to sabotage. My truck's tires slashed, men breaking into neighbors' houses searching for hidden paperwork. Security cameras caught them, and the sheriff got involved. Priscilla was unraveling. Her own board turned against her. Then, she filed a federal lawsuit, called me a domestic terrorist, threatening critical infrastructure. Bob laughed himself sick. False terrorism charges? That's prison time. The FBI got involved, audited everything. Within a week, they'd uncovered $127,000 missing from HOA accounts. Emergency reserves stolen. February 1st, Mrs. Brianna, the quietest board member, called a press conference. She spilled everything. Reporters swarmed. Priscilla tried a counter-press conference, but the questions about missing money broke her. When a reporter asked about the $127,000, she froze, caught on every camera. The FBI moved in. Priscilla was arrested, handcuffed in front of her sprinklers, lawns still being watered while the community cheered. Justice, as Grandpa Pete used to say, flows downhill. She pleaded guilty. 18 months in federal prison, restitution, license revoked. Her house seized. The headlines were beautiful. Mechanics' legal victory frees neighborhood. HOA corruption exposed. But the real win? The community healed. Stan became HOA president. First order, abolish aesthetic fines, require due process. I donated every water payment, over $80,000, to a scholarship fund for working families. Emma and Grace were first to benefit. Our neighbors helped each other for real this time. Oil changes, garden beds, library drives, backyard barbecues. Laughter echoed across yards where fear used to live. Priscilla's old house? Now it belongs to the Martinez family. Their boys build snow forts where she once ruled with an iron fist. Gardens thrive. Bird feeders hang proud. Woodpiles stand tall. Even Derek, the nephew, started a legit landscaping business, apologized for everything. What did I learn? Ordinary folks have power when they know their rights, document everything, and stand together. Sometimes the person getting bullied is sitting on the one thing the bully can't live without. And when that comes out, justice doesn't just flow, it floods. So yeah, that's how a mechanic with a stubborn streak and a mountain of paperwork took down an HOA tyrant. What about you? Ever tangled with an HOA dictator? Ever had to stand up to somebody who thought a little power made them God? Tell me your story. Seriously, I want to hear it. Because nobody should have to face this kind of thing alone. And remember, sometimes the best way to fight back isn't with anger or revenge. It's with proof, patience, and a whole lot of neighbors by your side. Justice isn't a theory out here. It's a pile of ashes, a scholarship fund, and the sweet sound of laughter where there used to be fear. So what would you do if it happened to you?
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.